So today we are riveting on new clutch linings on a Phantom 3 center plate clutch. They're of a somewhat interesting design. This is one that has already been done. New lining is riveted on. So they have these spring plates that go in between the rear facing, the facing that faces the pressure plate. So the facing is riveted to these spring plates, and then the spring plate is riveted onto the center plate itself. Now the front facing is just riveted on directly to the clutch plate. So it's a little bit of a tricky process. You have these rivets that are sort of counterbored and countersunk that hold just the spring plate on, and then the spring plate is separately riveted on to the lining. So it's a somewhat different sort of approach. This is a Borg and Beck made clutch for the Phantom 3. I do have some new old stock lining I'll show you. I use this as a template and also to just check everything. You can see that the lining material is about a little over 1/8 of an inch thick, so it's not very thick. And now originally it came pre-drilled and counterboard for the new rivet heads. The lining I have doesn't have any of the holes or counterbores in it. We got to put those in. So you rivet on your spring steel plates onto the lining, and I normally use this new old stock material for the template so I can counterbore and drill the holes in the proper places, and then when I go to rivet on these segments, they all go on in the right place. So you get that riveted on, and then you can rivet on your other lining on the actual center plate. So each time I do one of these, I have to sit and think and make sure that I'm getting everything in the right order and doing it properly. So sometimes the thinking takes longer than the actual process. And of course the machine has to be set up so we get the proper depth of counterbore and all. So we're using a number, I think it is a 4-5 rivet, brass semi-tubular rivet. And we have our machine set, so I'm going to go ahead and finish riveting on this segment, and then we'll also get the other lining on it riveted onto the other side. So one thing which I think I have encountered, you know, with Phantom 3 things, you don't always get them, the parts and the processes and working on them, there can be a fair amount of time in between each one. So each time I go to do something like this, I have to look back in my notes and my pictures that I took from the last time, which could be several years ago, and make sure that I do it the same way I did before. So so it gets a little confusing, but I think I have encountered some clutches where they did away with the spring steel plates and then they were able to use a thicker lining material. So then you could go from, this is over 1/8 inch, just a little over 1/8 inch, so you could probably go to a 3/16 thick lining and then just rivet it straight to the plate. So again, I think I've encountered that people have done that, and those clutches seem to work well. So anyway, I'm going to proceed on with the drilling, counterboring, and riveting. I've already started and got these two rivets in, and so the next ones are going to be these two, and then I'll just work around sort of alternating, because you don't want to get into into a bind and have like a buckle or something like that, you want to make sure the material is attached nicely. So we'll get started on it. Probably what can take the longest about doing a job like this is getting the machine set up. Making sure that you have the right drill, counter bore, and you have it set to the depth. And even though you may have it set to the depth you want and everything is working well, you still have to keep checking periodically. You also have to make sure you clean out all the debris that builds up in there, because that can stop it before it's supposed to. So anyway, we're going to do a few holes and then do a few rivets and show you how this works. So we have this drop pin, and that's for aligning the hole so you get it in the right position. And of course it's foot operated. And then we have this, which is a stop, and you can control your depth with. So we have these two holes drilled and counterbored. The drill and the counterbore are all one piece. So we're going to get some rivets in. We have the rivet portion of the machine set. So we get it in place. We hold it nice and firm down on the anvil. Step on the pedal and bingo, bingo. You got a rivet in. Go to the next one. And it gives a nice rounded, rolled over edge because of the tool is in that shape. So now that we have 4 rivets in, we can get a little more comfortable with putting in more rivets at a time. So I'm going to work in for this one next. And now, oh, I guess I'll do this one next. So I'm finding a lot of drivers these days aren't as good with handling the clutches as they used to be. They do a lot of slipping. And that is no good whatsoever with these cars. You've got to avoid that. I mean, you really don't want to slip any stick shift car's clutch. But slipping these is just bad news. There's no reason why you can't get many years, many miles out of a clutch if you handle it properly. Avoid slipping. You know, a lot of people slip when they're in a traffic situation or when they're pulling into a garage or a trailer. And it's just basically the kiss of death on these clutches. I mean, you see the thickness of the lining. There's not a whole lot to work with. It only takes a couple good slips and then you're calling me up and having it relined. So I've found this material and it works really, really well, and it has a Kevlar in place of what would have been asbestos. And it still has the brass weave, like the original. Again, this is the original, and you can see that it has a metallic weave in there. And the brass helps with, I guess it gives some friction, but it also helps to dissipate heat. So now I feel pretty confident that I can go around and do all the holes. So I got 2 here, 2 there. So I got 2 in just about every segment. So this is a Chicago brake rivet machine, and it's really quite a wonderful tool. I used it for many years, have done a lot of brakes and clutches with it. I don't know what I would do without it. So not only does it do the counter boring and drilling, it also has a sanding disc here for when you need to contour shoes. I don't do that much with this machine. I usually use what's called a brake doctor for those. A few of these I need to revisit because there was some material that had stopped too soon. Yeah, we need to go a little deeper. Sometimes things, you know, you get a lot of buildup in there, and also the drill bit can actually sink down in, and so sometimes you have to recheck your adjustments, which is part of the course with using old machinery. Yeah, it looks a lot better. Of course, you don't want to go too far. Then your rivet isn't doing anything. Hit this one more time. Okay, so now we can put in a lot of rivets. We'll save your eardrums and turn that off. Making sure you have the rivet head pressed down on the anvil very tightly is very important. Do not assume that the riveting is going to pull the lining in tight. That's the job between you and the anvil. The Borg & Beck clutch is a lot more like a more modern type clutch than what they used in Phantom 2s and 2025s. They used Borg & Beck also in 2530s and race 4 1/4s, late 4 1/4s, and as well as very late 2025s. I think I have a few more holes I want to increase the counterbore of. Okay, so we have all rivets in. So now I'm going to move on to the next phase, which is getting the rivet holes prepared for riveting on the other segment. Okay, so we're now at the point where we can rivet together our linings. We have our access holes drilled in so we can put our rivet in, and then on this side we have access holes here so we can turn the rivet over. So that's going to be the next thing to do here, is get these rivets in. Not always the easiest thing to line up. Okay, so we have one there, and I'd like to put one in over on this side. Okay. I'm not going to cinch it all the way down at this moment. I'm going to get these started first. Make sure everything's going to work out. Okay, that looks good. Yeah, very good. And then now I'll move over to this one. Cinch that one down quite yet either. That's good hold. And then we'll do this one. And I'm alternating the direction of the head, so put the head down on one and the head up on others. Might be a better Kennedy for going in that way. So I think I'm going to need a tapered punch to correct that. So yeah, whenever you're lining things up, a lot of times a tapered punch is the trick. Okay. There's that one. Cinch her down. They all look nicely lined up. So I had to align that one a little bit. Okay. All right. These are coming in nicely. This one's probably going to need a little aligning as well. Everything's pulling in nicely. So, looks like I have 2 more to go. Right. All right, our rivets are in. What's going on with this one? Just some material there. And they're all in. Looking good. Looking good. Double check things here. Alright, so there you have it. And that is how you rivet together Phantom 3 clutch. And I'm going to put this back on. This is where a balancing strip was. So Make sure to get that back in position.